welcome to Craft Roulette's 161 process video. I pulled a whole bunch of stuff and did some pre-cutting, so this hopefully will be a little bit of a shorter video. If you like seeing the card process videos, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I always like hearing people's feedback. And let's talk about Craft Roulette 161. So I did wind up having to cut a card panel, which is kind of my least favorite thing to do, but it turns out to be pretty common with Craft Roulette. Anyway, so we have a top folding card here. So this is the top of the Dutch door card, which is the project of this particular episode. I scored these, but I haven't reinforced them. And then basically your bottom of your Dutch door will come on this piece here. And as you can tell, this piece is a little bit skinnier than you would normally think it might be. This is, rather than being 4 1/4, this is actually 5 1/8, and this is 5 1/2. And then, actually, let me pull up the dimensions to make sure I'm giving you the right ones. So this piece starts out at 4 1/8 by 8 3/4. It's scored at 5 1/2. This folds down to be your top folding piece. And then the secondary piece is 8 1/2 by 2 1/4, and it's scored at 2 1/8 and 6 3/4. That's how that works. But and then our color scheme is campfire, which is why I chose yellow here. And I chose sort of a muted yellow because our other parameter is a book page, which I had this cool pattern paper, so I'm going to use that as sort of our inner surface. And you could just directly write on this. It's light enough to do that, but I may also, like if I was sending this card, I might just use a sticky note or something in here too. And then I decided to use more of my graphic 45 paper, and I have these two pieces. And then on this top piece, I'm going to do both a matte layer, and then I'm going to have I haven't decided if I want to just do the card like this, and then this kind of comes over here to fold down. I was kind of thinking I might mat it. I haven't decided, though, permanently. Like, I kind of like, I don't know if I like this look. I want to distress the yellow down a little bit around the edges because it's a bit too vibrant to go with the pattern paper. So I'm going to distress that down. But I do kind of like using this matte layer. So anyway, step one is to do that. I don't really have to worry about the back very much, and I think I'm going to grab some Catherine Pooler Ginger because I think it would be really good for this. And I'm using my Misty in my second favorite way to use it, which is basically as a ink platform because it's really easy to clean up later, and then you don't have to worry about potentially getting ink all over your work surface and having to clean it out and all that. Again, this is kind of going to be covered, so it's more just to sort of dull down this yellow a little bit. So like once we get our orange on here, you're not going to see a lot of this, but it knocks down the intensity of the yellow. We don't really have to, well, I guess we could do the inside as well, because it's going to have sort of a similar issue. Not issue really, but you know what I'm saying. This piece isn't covered, so the top we want to be a little more careful about, but everything else shouldn't really be a big deal because it's going to get covered up with pattern paper. And then we'll just pull that in and sort of pull that up a little bit. And you can see that, like, just by doing that, a little bit. It just kicks down the intensity of this yellow a little bit, um, and I'm a big fan of that. These, of course, these I don't know that is, again, these are less of an issue because we're not going to see a lot of them. But I really like this sort of almost like a sepia toned yellow that we're basically getting, and I'm just working over this with the blending brush fairly heavily handedly just to sort of make sort of a yellow orange color, and like that looks very campfirey to me. Um, I was actually thinking of sort of a morning campfire essentially because have I have some pinks and blues, and I mean blues are pretty just sort of campfire like fire whenever, but to me like pinks are more of a like a morning sunrise kind of campfire. Then here we don't really need to worry about it. I am going to do the back just because you'll be able to see it when the card is open. So, like just sort of, again, we're just doing a little bit of ink pretty lightly. And since these Catherine Pooler inks are pretty intense, I tend to sort of tap off on the Misty a little bit before doing them. But basically, we've made our own slightly more orange yellow cardstock. And the pieces the areas I didn't do um, are the ones that are going to be covered up with glue. So I just use a little ink off, and then this is actually a dried out baby wipe, but you can also use a microfiber cloth. And then, it just gets the ink off really nicely. And then you're ready to go for next time. But the thing I ran into using just my cutting mat for inking is like you don't necessarily know where the ink is, but doing it on the Misty, it makes it a lot easier. Plus, the door is clear, so you can look at it from the other side. Anyway, now we just need to stick all this stuff together. And you can do this either, I'll probably do the pattern paper with glue, but this part of the back, you can use a strong tape, or you can use glue, depending on what you prefer. I'm just going to use tape because it should be pretty easy to line up. Actually, before that, I will burnish this a little bit. I want to be like slightly careful because I don't really want to like tape the card down, but we can do a little bit more burnishing later once this is together. But basically, we just want to get this in here, and now I'll give it more of a real burnishing, and also make sure that the doors line up. Like that one's a little not quite straight, so I'm gonna hold it and then just go over this. This is 60-pound cover weight from the Michaels store, so this is their standard recollections. And there we have the card base together. Whilst I am here, I can just get this guy in, because this is, again, can just be assembled with tape. Once we get to the sort of top part with the focal piece that actually adheres, whoops, we are out of strong tape. So I guess we'll be using glue since I just ran out of tape. But what was I even saying? Oh, so if you're adhering to something like glitter or any other textured paper, like a strong glue is often a lot better, just because then you don't have to worry about it quite so much. And then we're going to just put this down. And the nice piece about a cardstock here is that it will sort of camouflage this seam a little bit. You still get it on the back, obviously, but that's sort of how it all folds down. So let us grab either our glue or see if I have my mini tape runner here. Here we go. Grab our little tape runner for these pieces, and this paper is Graphic 45, and this is coming from the Alice's Tea Party that I've been using for my Kendra's Card Challenge series. If you've been following that, if you're interested in that, feel free to check it out. There is a playlist for KCC 10, and then I've finished a set this weekend, so there'll be a lot of reels coming soon, if that is your thing. The only thing here to really worry about is that these are directional patterns, so it is good to get them lined up correctly. So that's that. And then we can't, since the back of these is flat, we can use tape for this. And then we can also use tape for the focal piece. But I just want to get this lined up. There we go, just to bring sort of an orangey, more campfire-y color in. As you can see, these journal cards are on the other side of this suit pattern, which is too bad, because the suit pattern is one of my favorites, and it's sort of like, well, you sort of wind up sacrificing one or the other, but, well. And then for this last piece, two things to be aware of. One, you don't want to glue the whole thing, so you kind of want to get a sense of where you want this. And then basically you want your sort of top 2/3 to be covered in glue. But, so that's one thing. I said there were two things. Let me see if I remembered. And also I was going to say, this is a point where you would want to use a glue because of the glitter here. And the nice thing about the glue is it'll give you a bit more working time than tape, which basically glues down right away. And then I usually pull this back in case you made a miscalculation. We didn't, but while the glue is wet, you could still pull this off. You could potentially pull this off. So, here's our Craft Roulette 161 card, done relatively smoothly. I mean, we didn't even stamp anything today. Who knew? But I really like this pad. So let's run through our parameters. We have a Dutch door card. We have a hat or hats, which I don't think I mentioned before, but cap or hats is one of the other parameters this week. We have campfire colors, with sort of the addition of, I mean, all these are fire colors. The only one that's a little questionable is the pink. But, you know, campfires are outdoors, so I don't know. I was still going for like a morning campfire. And that, I think, is all of the things. Campfire colors, Dutch door card, hat or hats. Oh, and the book page is the element, and that's what this last one is, which I think we talked about before. Anyway, that's what we have for 161. Feel free to leave any comments below. I always find it interesting to hear what other people think about these challenges, and I will talk to you guys later.